We heard well. And it's a very good one as well. No, very, I think that's not great. How can you be one about it?
Hi guys, my name is Caitlin and I'm one of the co-lead academics of the Biology Undergraduate Society. And this is Jackie.
I'm Jackie, nice to meet you.
And today we're just going to talk a little bit about NSERC, USRA, and any research really available at Western. There's a little information session. And we have Dr. Kelly here today and Dr. Cooper. Oh, sorry, not Dr. yet, but Cooper here.
Not even close.
And before we start, I'd just like to give a quick land acknowledgement. I'd just like to acknowledge that Western University is located on the traditional territories of the Nishnawbe, Haudenosaunee, Lunakawak, and Chinookitin nations on lands connected with London Township in some of the treaties of 1796. And this land continues to be home to diverse indigenous people, and we recognize them as contemporary stewards of the lands and vital contributors of our society. And I think as we go through, especially with Thanksgiving year, I know you get this lip service at a lot of events, so I just like you to think like, what does this land acknowledgement mean and why is it important? And how can we apply it in our day-to-day life?
All right, so today we're going to be going over what the NSERC scholarship is exactly, how to apply to it, and getting a research position in general. So why is research important? Obviously, it can help you broaden your skill set, especially research skills, develop your interest and pursue different things related to research. Research can have an impact in the scientific community as well, and income, like obviously who doesn't like money, so you can get income, and helps you network with others who are interested in your fields of interest, and you can build relationships upon that. So what is the NSERC scholarship? So NSERC stands for the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada, and they created the Undergraduate Student Research Award, or the USRA. So this award serves to nurture your interest and develop your potential for research, and kind of like serves as a way to help undergrad students learn more about research. So this is definitely a good opportunity for those who want to get research skills and work experience, especially for those who are looking to do research later on in their career. These awards also provide you financial support. Obviously, university does cost quite a bit of money, so being able to have some kind of funding is helpful as well. And you can get that through your host institution. For example, if you apply through Western, that could be one of your host institutions. So the award duration and compensation. So your compensation is $6,000 for entire term, and you're eligible for an additional 25% of that, or minimum of at least 25%, or $1,500 will be supplemented by the host institution. An additional. You won't get any provisions for any sick leave or any other interruptions of the award. So if you say you want to take a vacation, that might be a bit tricky if you're trying to do that during the term of this award. This is a full-time commitment and is a 16-week period. And your start and end dates are going to be determined by your supervisor. You are able to hold this award at any time during the year, but there are certain restrictions regarding that. Oh, feel free to just find random fees. So there's one fee up here, some like get it all around. Yeah, so eligibility. So who is eligible to apply for it? You have to be a Canadian citizen and you have to be a permanent resident of Canada at least as of the deadline date. And you have to be in a bachelor's or registered in bachelor's degree, eligible at an eligible institution. For example, you guys are all eligible because you're at Western, and I assume most of you or all of you are in a bachelor's degree. You have to have at least a second-class cumulative average in previous year's studies, so that's around a B-, and you can only hold a maximum of 3 USRAs throughout your entire undergraduate university career. So say you get one second at the summer second, third, and fourth year, that's it. You can't do anymore. Yeah, you also have to have completed all of the first year requirements of your university, and you have to be a full-time student in the term before the award. So say you want to do a summer award, you have to have been a full-time student during the fall and or winter terms. And you cannot have started a program of graduate studies yet. So who is not eligible? So you are not eligible if you're undergraduate in a professional degree in the health sciences, such as the BSCN, can have a higher degree in any natural science or engineering, and you can't have graduated, and you have to be in a bachelor's degree, and you can't be a full-time student for the term of interest. So say if you want to do this during the summer, you can't be taking a full term course load. You can only take maximum of one course concurrent to your USRA. Okay, so finding a supervisor. So in the past year, some of the interested faculty we've had are Dr. Kathleen Hill, Dr. Kelly, Dr. Cole Palmy, and Dr. Brian Knapp. So how can you apply? So to apply, you have to submit your application using NSERC online system, and there's gonna be two forms you have to submit electronically. There's Form 2 Part 1, which you as a student have to complete, and then you have to then submit another form to your supervisor, like whoever you're contacting to your supervisor, and then you have to complete that. Last year, these applications were due around February 18th, but I really recommend if you want to be eligible for this award, you should contact any supervisor well ahead of that time, because a lot of professors or supervisors are busy during the school year. They have lots of course content and that they like worry about. So you have to contact them and like kind of find out who you want to be as a supervisor. You may even talk to multiple people at once. Because sometimes maybe their research doesn't necessarily appeal to you as much as you thought it would. So definitely give yourself some time to reach out to different people or different supervisors, and also give the supervisors plenty of time to do what they need to do as well. Yeah, also this will be posted, but if you do want to take pictures, feel free. But yeah. Okay, so this is what the kind of like the form or like the application looks like. It's just like general like contact information about yourself. And please, when you apply, do apply with UWO email. Okay, and then if you have applied for USRA award previously, you just use the same information that you used before. Okay, so after you complete the 202 Part 1, which is the one that you as a student complete first, you gotta get a reference number, and then you can give that to your supervisor, who can then use that to complete the 202 Part 2. There is a requirement for like some kind of transcript. You don't need an official transcript that you have to pay for at Western. You can just use the academic record you can find on the student portal. And then for the biology department, you can obtain like a form for the academic records on the website, and the Department of Biology website. Okay. So the supervisor is going to have to give you a clear description of the project interest. So this project has to be something related to natural sciences or engineering. So basically almost everyone in the biology department is involved in that. So those are something you can contact. And the supervisor will have to specify what you as a student will be doing in the research. Some additional requirements is that you're gonna have to complete the biology student statement form. It's basically a way for the NSERC committee kind of like academic committee to evaluate you as a candidate. It's a 250 word statement that kind of you detail why research is important to you, and why you're applying for this award, and any relevant research or experience that you might have. So all in all, you're gonna have to submit the biology student statement form, the access to academic record form, and NSERC application. So getting a research position. Okay, so basically discover your interest. So don't just like reach out to any random people. Make sure that who you reach out to whatever they're researching is something that interests you. So look into what you're learning courses, maybe something you're learning in that course or whatever the prof is teaching you is something you're interested in. Maybe you can reach out to them. Talk to your professors or TAs. Maybe even read articles in different disciplines. Maybe that can be something that you're interested in, and then you can reach out to those people as supervisors. And you can also go to various talks as well. Those are all opportunities that you can kind of learn more about different research and if you want to be involved in that. If you need some inspiration, we do have a biology like faculty page. So it's gonna list all the people in the biology department, and you can always look through their research projects and their own site, and then you kind of like get a feel of what the supervisor is doing for the research. So definitely just look through those and see if that's something you want to be involved in, and then reach out to them later on. You also make sure to look outside your institution of interest for research positions. Doesn't necessarily have to be at Western. You look at other universities as well, especially if you're staying in London for like the summer term, summer programs, internships, or even other research institutes that are, for example, some are hospital affiliated. Okay, so how can you approach a lab or a supervisor? So the most common way is to contact or cold call supervisors through emails, but that's not the only way. A lot of good ways is networking sessions done by different clubs on campus. For example, some keep bugs, the host of dinner or tea or prof sessions, which is a great place to start. I do know that some people think that contacting or approaching a prof can be a bit intimidating, especially as a first year student, but coming to these different events is kind of like a more relaxed setting where you can talk to different profs and learn more about their research and what they do, and just more about them. We also have Bug grad student meet and greet coming up soon. That's October 19th, and that's gonna be an opportunity to talk to different grad students and learn more about research from like a student perspective. You can also talk to your friends who have done research and maybe see if they can refer you to someone or recommend you to their supervisor. Those are all good ways to reach out to a lab, or a supervisor. Okay, so how can you write an email to potential supervisors? So definitely you should keep it short but informative. You don't want to make it too long because when you email prof, they may have a whole bunch of different things that they're involved in. For example, their inbox might be filled with lots of coursework or students asking about course content. So keep it short. Don't just include a bunch of random information. And yeah. So when you introduce yourself, just say hello, Dr. Blank. Make sure whenever you send that email, just triple check everything, not just the name, because if you do have any typos, it doesn't reflect as well on you. It's like make a good first impression basically. Same thing as getting a job. If you have any typos in your resume, you're less likely to be hired. So then you can go on saying something like, "My name is blah blah blah, and I'm a blank year student at University of Western Ontario, and what you're studying." And then you move on to talk about why you're interested in doing research. For example, you talk about you want to get a future career choices, and passion for science, and things like that. And then you can explain your interest in their lab and research. So obviously, it's best to do your research about the supervisor and what they are researching. Don't go into blind because you should have a passion for or be interested in, at the very least about what the supervisor is researching. Do not reiterate their whole research career to them because you do want to keep it short, and the supervisor themselves already know what they're researching, right? And then make sure to read a few of their articles beforehand, kind of get a feel of what they are researching and see if that's something that interests you. Then you can say something like, "I'm greatly intrigued by your last research on such and such." And then try and arrange a time to kind of meet with them if you can, because it looks like it's good opportunity to just like really know you more about their research and see if that's something you want to be involved in. And then finally attach your CV, resume, transcript. that's just gonna be a way for supervisors to kind of see who you are as a student, if you're studious, and just kind of like see what kind of experience you do have, like kind of learn a little more about you. Okay, so now let's move on to share some more about some real experience from Cooper, who had done the NSERC award before, and also Dr. Kelly, who like see their perspective on different yeah, see like a student and like the professor or supervisor's perspective.
Okay, so my name's Cooper. I was a NSERC USRA student in Dr. Tony Percival Smith's lab this summer. I guess like I can go through the questions, is the best way to do it. And if anybody has any questions for me, they can ask as well. It's probably the best way to do this. But so in terms of how I heard about the award, it's actually a bit of a unique example. I was basically just emailing professors that I'd had in the past, asking if they had any opportunities in their labs, like volunteering or any kind of work that they had, things like that. And when Dr. Percival Smith responded to me, he mentioned the NSERC award and that it's a really good opportunity for students like me. And so I kind of worked closely with my supervisor back and forth to figure out the best way to put the application together and who to talk to and that sort of thing. So I basically got all of that knowledge straight from him, which was really beneficial for me. The COVID-19 example is a little bit different for me as well, because by the time I was in his lab, we were through with the COVID stuff. So we had a pretty, I mean, we still had to wear masks in the lab, but in terms of the actual work we could do, it was pretty open. So we were able to do everything we were going to. But that was a really big way that the NSERC award really helped me, was because of COVID. I didn't have nearly as much experience as in the lab by that point as I probably should have. So being able to have that firsthand experience and do a lot of the wet lab skills that we use every day in the lab was really, really useful for me. And we work with Drosophila, which is really tedious. So that was a lot of work that I learned to get through at the beginning. The biggest advice that I would give for people trying to do a program like this is to get started early. I started emailing professors the week after Christmas and talking with people back and forth. The way that I did it personally was I started with professors that I'd had a personal relationship with. So through the last couple of years, classes that I'd had, an example, so my spot is a little bit unique because last year, the end of the year, broke my hand. So I had a lot of interaction with professors last year, trying to figure out accommodations and different ways around assignments and stuff like that, which really helped me personally. I mean, the hand thing sucked, but just having that one-on-one personal interaction with them really helped me to figure out the best way to go about these things. So basically, I started there. Dr. Kathleen Hill was a really great resource for me. I emailed her as one of the first people, and she gave me feedback on my resume and my cover letter and things like that, which helped me move forward with other people and finally land with Dr. Percival Smith. So yeah, and that's pretty much the main things. Other than that, skills and qualities that were really important was the main thing that I learned was how to interact in a lab environment, not so much the actual physical like lab work that goes into it. It was more about the personal relationships that go with that and the best way to interact with people and communication and stuff like that. Because in our lab, for example, we worked in a lot of different areas of the school, not just in our specific lab. We went to surface science at the research park and talked to people there. I worked with a Kim Loney, who's the lab supervisor for genetics labs, helping her set up the new labs for the year. So interacting with her that way. We also went down to the biotron and stuff like that to use microscopes. So learning all those kind of skills. So I would say like the biggest thing to take away from that is to really take advantage of all the different people that you get to meet and learn different things from them, different skills, different communication skills, I guess, as well as the actual physical lab stuff. In terms of fear or intimidation, that's a tough one. Everybody's unique. Everybody deals with it differently. For me personally, the best way to do it was just to dive in, and you make mistakes. That's part of it. And the biggest important part about that is how you deal with those mistakes and how you learn from them. which is, I think, the biggest learning curve is, realizing that, because I know from my personal experience, the first, second, and third year labs that I did, like, they really account for your mistakes and it's not a big deal. But when you're working in a real lab, those mistakes have real life consequences. So it was really important to figure that out early and learn that it's not the end of the world if something goes wrong. You restart it and move on again. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you guys. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Sorry, you go first. Yeah, you go first. Yeah.
Okay, I have two questions. What kind of experiments did you do? And what are some of the biggest mistakes you did in the lab?
So the main things that I personally was doing this summer was trying to image pupil case development of Drosophila on a micro CT machine. So that was all 4 months of the summer we were working on that. It didn't end up working out in the end, which is unfortunate, but that happens sometimes. The other thing I was working on was ion toxicity for Drosophila. So I was mixing in different concentrations of metal ions into their food and seeing basically what the threshold was before survivorship dropped off, things like that. For me personally, the biggest complication was the Drosophila themselves, because they're really finicky, and sometimes you can do everything right and it still fails, and that's just part of it, unfortunately. Outside of that, I would say the biggest complication for me was planning things in advance. I know, like, personally, and I know a lot of other people too, like, when you get into that a school rhythm, it becomes very day to day, your planning. But when it comes to especially Drosophila work, because they have to be on the same cycle all the time, it comes down to planning your stuff out weeks and weeks in advance and knowing which step comes where. So it was really organizational and putting together those plans that was the hardest part for me. But anybody else?
Yeah, so I have a few questions. First of all, what year were you when you got the position?
So I was third year, so I'm in my fourth year now.
Okay.
Last year, I started emailing people halfway through my third year. So,
Okay. And then also, how many emails did you send out probably?
I had planned out, I don't know the exact number, but I probably planned out 15 or 16 or so. Luckily, Dr. Percival Smith was my fourth one, so it didn't take me that many. But everybody's different, and it really depends on who you're talking to. Like I would send them out, I was going to, but the way I sent it out was in like a grouping, so like those 4 at a time, and just like going based off their responses. So like Dr. Hill was the first response, and she basically like helped me figure out the best way to move forward after the initial contact, stuff like that. So for me, I got relatively lucky. It was quick, but I know a lot of people, it takes a lot more emails than that. So.
And then was this position volunteer or paid?
So this was exactly this, the NSERC USRA. So it was the $6,000 grant, and then the university supplemented it a little bit more than that, 25%. I was basically minimum wage. So I was 9 to 5 every day, minimum wage.
Okay, so
More or
if you
less.
don't, if like, let's say I get a position and I don't apply for this award, it's just volunteer?
You can, yeah. That was what I had looked into originally, was doing that, or if they had like some labs have lab technician positions. I don't know exactly the requirements for that. We have one now in Dr. Percival Smith's lab, but that's a different option as well. That's good for experience. But other than that, it's usually volunteering. So.
And then also like you sent the emails out around like after Christmas, you said?
Yeah, so I started sending them out at somewhere between like the 28th and 30th of December, something like that was when I first started doing it. I figured that it was a good time because most people had finished with like the big Christmas stuff, and they were more on break at that point, so more likely to respond and be able to have a conversation and things like that. So I do think that the timing is very important.
Yeah.
Obviously do it early, but pick a good time, like not finals or midterms or something when everybody's really busy. So like the timing of it's also really important from what I experienced. Anybody else? Yeah.
Yeah, what's a good way for us to form a relationship with our like professors? Because classes are like, 500-700 people.
Yeah, so that's one that I can't really answer that well, precisely because my experience was a little bit unique.
Right.
I would say for the most part, from other people that I've met, it really just comes down to like, engaging with office hours, like being involved in discussion in class if there is some. I'm assuming your first year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know in first year that's not really a reality because of how many people there are there. I would say don't get discouraged by that though, because that stuff gets a lot easier as you progress. Like most of my classes now are 15, 20 people for the most part. So there's a lot more opportunity for stuff like that. Second year is still pretty big, but I would say third year is when that happens. It's all, I mean, it is all about being proactive about that stuff. I wasn't super great about that early. So, like I said, I did get relatively lucky with how it worked out for me, but, that came with other issues, but, yeah. So, anybody else?
Do you have any prior experience before applying?
Not in a lab specifically. I worked for 4 years at the Fowler Kennedy Sports Medicine Clinic as a volunteer, doing different kinds of things with them. And then a lot of different work experience, just, in retail and stuff like that. I worked at a golf course for 3 years as well, just like experience like that. Most of the time, if you're starting, I mean, they understand you have to start somewhere, right? And so it really depends on your supervisor, but also like the kinds of people they've had in the past, I think. But for me, I hadn't, and I mean, for me personally, also, I hadn't had a lot of like in-lab experience because of COVID, right? So it was a big learning curve. So I think that is important, but I still think there's a lot of opportunities if you have other diverse kinds of experiences outside of the lab that can help you for that sort of thing as well. Anybody else?
What was the training like once you got the position, or did you just get thrown in?
So every position you take, you have to do all of the standard Western trainings. They have the WMIS and workplace harassment stuff, all like the workplace stuff that you pretty much do everywhere, except we in a lab setting, there's more chemical based stuff and like fire stuff that you have to do extra. In terms of training, all of your supervisors will be different. For Dr. Percival Smith, it was really like on a technique to technique basis. So if he knew that something that I was going to do in a week or 2 weeks in advance, we would do training before I did that. Because, it's kind of a waste of time to do a whole bunch of training and then there's things that you're not going to do. So that was his philosophy, at least, was to do it on a case-by-case basis, which I thought was a good way to do it. Like it really just comes down to like getting involved with it, and there's a learning curve to everything. So the training just helps you to get a basis for it, but then you kind of learn as you go for the most part. So anyone else? No?
Hello? Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm from the, I'm like the voice in the room. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. So I had a question. So, am I right to assume that like you like weren't specifically interested in like your like PI's research? Like you kind of just wanted the wet lab experience, or were
Well,
you interested in what they were doing?
I mean, that's a bit of a loaded question, I guess. I mean, at the end of the day, sometimes, specific interest is really dependent. I mean, for me,
Mhm.
I'm a genetics major, so I was really interested in a lot of the gene regulation aspects of a lot of the things, which is a big part of multiple different researchers' research in that area. So for me, it was like what aspect of research am I interested in? And then, the specifics kind of come after, if that makes sense.
Let's come after. Okay.
So
Yeah.
like, like I was, interested in evolutionary processes and gene regulation and how genotypes become phenotypes, basically. And then it was like working through the individual researchers' research and finding aspects of it that I found interesting, and then working from there, basically.
Okay, so would that like sort of like common stuff be sort of like part of your answer if they ask you like why are you interested in working in the lab, like their lab?
Mhm. Yeah, so exactly what I was saying, like
Hmm.
those aspects. And again, every researcher has multiple different things on the go at a time. So
Yeah.
if you're focused on the big picture of what their stuff is about, it's pretty easy to find interest in the specifics as you go along. I found, at least that's also really person to person as well. So
Yeah, and then last thing I kind of joined late, but who's like the Dr. Hill person that helped you like with process?
she is one of the genetics professors. If you're
Oh,
taking,
like okay.
there, what else, other description to give, I guess.
Oh, so she was like a professor and she like your professor and she helped you with the stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I developed a pretty close relationship with her because of my injury, and I had
Uh,
classes with her at the time,
mhm.
throughout that year. So it would like the reason that I give her as an example is just because for me personally,
Mhm.
I had a close back and forth relationship with her, so she helped me, but it was more of just a general example if you have any personal
Yeah.
experience, basically. So
Okay, that's all my questions. Thanks so much.
yeah, you're welcome. Anything else? Awesome.
So, my name is Greg Kelly. Boy, there's a lot more people standing. Come on in. One of the things, well, I'm on Bradley's advisory committee, so this year. So, I mean, I will parallel a lot what, I mean, you guys, this is great because it's kind of an eye opener. I've had 20 students that have gone through the program since. I mean, I will be honest with you. I am the oldest person here, and I've been at Western longer than you guys have been alive. So one of the things that I will reiterate, though, is with what Bradley was saying, is that talk to people. Go, just physically interact with people. Talk to professors. Because one of the things is that, I mean, you don't go to a proctologist to have your teeth fixed, right? So why is it? I mean, I've had students in past that I used to run a program and would come to me and say, well, what do I want to be? Or what can I be? And it's like, I don't even know you. So, I mean, that's the sort of thing that you need to, I mean, I teach upper year courses, 3rd and 4th year, and I don't teach until January. But I will reiterate that you have to knock on doors and you have to make yourselves known to your professors, because that's the only way that you'll create a rapport. Whether it's office hours, whether it's in the supermarket, whether it's whatever, that sort of thing is very key. Hi, I'm so-and-so. I enjoyed taking your course. The other thing that I will touch upon is with what Bradley was saying is that look at the profile. I mean, for instance, I turned down a person today from another institution that was completely, I mean, they were highly trained, but they were completely far removed from the theme of my lab, which is stem cells and the metabolic regulation of those cells. How do you end up going from a stem cell to a differentiated cell? And this person was highly qualified, just that they weren't trained in my area. So I can just, easily say, sorry, your background is completely unbeknownst. So, I mean, if, for instance, you're interested in animal behavior, don't come talk to a geneticist or to myself like a cell biologist, because it's not going to work. All right. And the other thing too is that, I mean, Bradley mentioned about getting your CVs and getting things, applications ready and sending out emails. Do it early. Do it early. And that's the key thing, because I mean, we get bombarded with emails. I get so many emails that I have my own lab is just on Slack channel, just because I will follow them because I get so many emails, and that's not even the spam trap. So, I mean, by all means, that's the thing, you know, I mean, you guys are, this is a great forum because the bugs at least informs you. I've had students come to me and it's like, well, I've already taken a student, and they've come to me and said, well, I've just heard about this. And it's already, you know, just end of January. And it doesn't take a great deal of time for us to you know, to whip up a document in terms of, you know, following what would append to yours. But by all means, I mean, it's difficult saying no to a person when you've already taken something. So that's the key. Okay. The other thing too, I mean, I was a bricklayer before university, and I combined peat moss back in Manitoba for 2 summers while at university. So my background was not research, but for some reason, I mean, the research it comes second nature to me because I mean, maybe my parents would say that I was more interested in the box that the president was in than the president itself. You know, I mean, that's the sort of thing that you'll know. I mean, this is the sort of thing this serves 2 purposes. And one, if you want to volunteer, that's great too. But I mean, if you don't receive one of these awards, it's okay. But it'll do one of 2 things. It'll either make you want to do research, continue on, basically, doing a graduate program, or maybe clinical sciences, or maybe a clinician researcher as an MD, or it'll make you run like hell away from the lab, because I know it's not for everybody. I've had people quit on me, and just because they had a different inkling as to what research was. So, you know, I mean, one of the things is that we all like to be humbled. I'm sorry. We all like that. I mean, take a look at our previous, I mean, I don't have an extensive, I mean, some people have an extensive website and things like that. I mean, I have alternative websites, and you can go to that, and, you know, we keep them updated because I've heard at sick kids, you know, I mean, personal experience that, oh, well, don't even contact that person because they haven't updated their website since 2003. And it's like 2017 when I was. So it's like, okay. So, I mean, this is our forum. This is our chance to ingratiate you guys, to really, you know, promote what we do. And the thing is, take a look. We all like to be humbled, and we all like to be, you know, kind of, well, good pat on the back, because there's not a whole lot of money involved in this research part of things. There's not a whole lot of money involved because we're not creating, you know, I mean, a pharmaceutical or something, a big, you know, I mean, things in the States are different than Canada, of course, but they do have a big pharmaceutical industry, and we don't have that in Canada. So we're not making these products like they are. But, you know, one of the things is that if you are interested in a lab, take a look at their publications. Where are they publishing? Impact factors. Who knows about impact factors? Yeah, Bradley does. So, I mean, it's nice to publish in an impact factor, you know, tour. I mean, the New England Journal of Medicine is crazy. I mean, I think it's 37 or something, the impact factor. That means you publish a paper in New England Journal of Medicine, you know, you're on winning, you know, you're on the money, right? Because it is big stuff. But if you're publishing in an impact factor of, say, 1, it's just a publishable unit. So look where the people are publishing. Look to see, you know, preface your email. Are you taking a USRA student? Do you have, I mean, one of the things is that I don't think you need a grant anymore. The PI of the lab, principal investigator of the lab, has to have a grant anymore. But I mean, it used to be that you needed a grant, a discovery grant, in order for that student to work in your lab. That's, you know, so just ask them these sorts of questions. But, you know, you can, and just follow that outline that you saw on the website. or on the slides, is that, you know, one of the things is you just want a very short, by way of introduction. This is what you're going to do. And this is why you're interested in the lab, and go from there. So, I mean, I could probably spend, you know, I mean, I know you guys are rushing off and you want to go do other things, and so that's okay too, because so do we. The thing is, just, you know, really, really get all of your, I hate using the term, but ducks in a row. You know, talk to other people, talk to the lab. Intimidation, well, you know, how did you deal with fear or intimidation? You're all going to screw up. Okay, you're all going to make mistakes, and I let people make mistakes in my lab every single time because it's the only way they learn. But of course, if they're working with a kit that maybe is $300 or $400 or maybe even more dollars, then, you know, maybe that person is going to be looking over your shoulder the first time. But at least if you come to my lab, if you come to Tony's lab, like Bradley has had, it's, you know, I mean, these are hands-on. And we use kits all the time, and they're expensive, and yeah, there's things that you have to plan ahead. So that's the key thing. Okay. And the other thing too is that, just like I said at the beginning, is that we're all the same type of people. That, you know, whether it's a Bradley or a Greg, we're all the same people. Whether it's you guys in first year or second year, it's tough getting USRA in first year, I must admit, but it has happened. In fact, we look at the marks of the first year. I don't look at the marks per se. That's the next level. But you have to convince, you know, people, say, for instance, if you have, and over the years, I've noticed that there's been a steady increase of the GPA requirements. Whereas people, when it first started, I mean, people were getting these awards with a 73, 74 average. Now it's 85 and better. So I'm not telling you to go run away if you don't have an 85 average, but, you know, put together a good package. Convince your the reviewers why you want to, what's, you know, the USRA going to do for you. Okay. No, got everybody worried here. It's just everything is shaking. So we're all the same. Don't worry, whether you combine peat moss or you know, you worked at a golf course or whatever, we're all the same. And in fact, most research scientists will show you their first year transcript from university. And I had a former chair who said, well, you know, student was looking at his transcript, but like you guys are looking at me, he said, I better flip it around, because that was not a 99 in that course, that was a 66. So that tends to be the case where we see the light shining, and well, we get bitten by the bug. Okay. So feel free to ask any questions, but by all means, knock on doors and send emails. Say it's already October, but I would say that you guys know about NSERC. So I would say probably the beginning of November. And I know you're busy, you're really busy. But I mean, this is a summer paid research. And like I said, it'll either make you want to do research and stay in that field, or maybe a slightly different field, or move on. Okay? Yes.
Yeah, so I know that like profs are all busy and researchers are busy all the time. But in the case that you email like a prof and they don't respond to you, is it worth like emailing them again later?
I would probably talk to the people. Do you know the TAs that prof has? And just, I mean, that's a pretty good indicator. And if you don't hear from that person, say in a couple of weeks, yeah, move on. There's more than one, you know, fish in the ocean, right? So yeah, by all means, move on. But, you know, put in your header and use your UWO account. That's the key. Don't use a Gmail Yahoo or whatever account. Use your UWO account. That's the key. Okay. There's a, thought I saw a hand up. Nope. Okay, good luck, everybody. And like I said, put your, oh, yes, raise the hand. Okay, go ahead. The voice from, can't hear anything. It says talking.
Maybe they're
Hello.
muted. There you go.
So I have a question regarding the NSERC.
Okay,
Yeah. So how is it that I can reach to the profs?
knock on the doors.
Like, should I go to every? What if the thing I'm interested in is not the prof does not lecture, the is not having the lab in the thing that I'm interested in, and most profs that I know are the ones that lecture me.
Probably, I mean, ideally what you want to do, we talked about this earlier, that check with different institutions as well. I mean, I've had students from Guelph, I've had students from McMaster who are living in London for the summer and they want to, you know, do cell biology. So that's the key thing. And if you're, I mean, if you don't have a professor, I mean, approach them, and if that's what you're interested in, maybe you've taken courses before. Okay. So like I was saying, don't, you know, if you work on triple striped ground squirrels, don't come see Tony Percival Smith or Kathleen Hill or myself, because we're not going to entertain your application, because we got other people. We have many, many others who are really keen on cell biology or genetics or whatever. Yeah. Go to an animal ecologist. Yes.
Does the research you do with the students like go towards something, or is it just for purposes?
Yeah, it does go towards something. I mean, you're not just physically doing, I mean, in my lab, in Tony's lab, you're not physically just washing dishes. That's what it used to be. I mean, that's kind of the idea that was spread around. My students have gone on to publish papers with me. So it does work. Yes, Brian.
Well, something to that. For me personally, with Dr. Percival Smith, it was a really good stepping stone towards an honors thesis. So I went straight from what I was doing in his lab, applying basically the same ideas to a full honors research thesis that I'm working on right now. So that's a really good application of the program, with what I was going to say as well.
Yeah, that works too. Okay, I mean, if there's any other questions, feel free to send me an email. Just yes, at the back.
What do you specifically look for?
Oh my God, I asked that. I asked that the day I started working back in '95. Can you imagine? Where were you in '95? You weren't even alive, pretty much. But I asked an old timer and he said, well, you know, he said, if I knew that answer, he said, I'd have 2 Nobels. Okay, because I mean, that's the sort of thing you just don't know. You literally don't know. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And I've had great students. I've had super students who've gone on to, I mean, I have one now who's at Stanford. And she was very good. But I mean, you can't hold them back, nor do you want to. You just let them, you know, you teach them what you know, and then let them fly. So what do I look for? I like the early bird, to tell you the truth. I have a 4th year student right now, and she applied to me early, and I accepted her, and I didn't hear anything for about 3 weeks, and then, yeah, so yeah, the early bird maybe catches the worm, or who knows? Yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything you don't really like or think students should avoid when trying to reach out to?
One of the things not to, or to avoid, Bradley, I've had people that have said, dear Dr. So-and-so, and I don't even know who so-and-so is. Okay, they don't know. I mean, so we won't even go there, but it wasn't Bradley. But
Other student, but
another student got Tony Percival Smith's name wrong. Yeah, I mean, that's okay. At least it's the same department, but I don't even know who so-and-so. And so, I mean, just professor or doctor, or just look at their website.
In fairness, in his case, he just forgot the hyphen in
No,
the name.
yeah,
So it wasn't that big
That
of a
wasn't-
deal, but
yeah.
and he still got hired.
Yeah, he got hired. So that's one of the things to avoid. And literally, I mean, it's just like the advertisement, you know, I mean, you're all here for bugs, you know, just say that you've heard this, you want more information on it, maybe you want to talk to a professor about, you know, this USRA. Maybe you don't even want to work with them, but you want more information. By all means, you can talk to, because most people have had USRAs in past. Okay. Yes.
Like one of the requirements for applying to NSERC is being a Canadian citizen
Mhm.
or something like that.
Yes,
So does it mean that international students cannot apply to it?
they can apply. And in a way, this was something set up back in the early 2000s to get more people involved in like students involved in doing research. And this was a way that, you know, Canadians, I mean, our permanent residents, people who want to be in Canada, they are overwhelmingly, that's the bulk of the applications are, I mean, of course, now that, you know, with the regulations being as they, you know, stated, you know that. But yeah, I mean, there's so many people applying. There's many people applying, not just to biology, but to other, you know, maybe chemistry, physics, you know, astronomy, and so on and so forth. So, but you have to have be in a bachelor's program, except health sciences, which is separate again. Okay. Anybody else? Yes.
Just to clarify, is NSERC and USRA the same thing or two?
NSERC is the governing body. So NSERC has, so it's the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council. So anything to do with, like if we apply for grants or postdocs or scholarships for graduate work, that is NSERC. And USRA is the Undergraduate Student Research Award, and that's specific. And having that, I mean, it literally means that, yes, it's a good thing, because it tells your next employer, if you decide to move on, that you have held a USRA, and that's a good thing. Yeah, because you've already jumped through that. Let's face it, there's hurdles everywhere. For you guys, for me, for Bradley, you know, and so the more that you want to have in terms of your portfolio or your CV or whatever you want to call it, your resume, the better. Good. Okay. Thank you, everybody. And like I said, knock on doors, because yeah, as I've always for years and years and years, you don't go to a proctologist to have your teeth fixed. If you do, you're barking up the wrong tree. Okay. Now everybody's looking up, what the hell is a proctologist? You know, so talking bugs. Okay. No.
Yeah, I think just showing that you're talking. Like,
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay. Okay, thank you all for coming. We're gonna be posting. Thank you for coming too.
Thank you.
Yeah, but we will be posting the recording and the slides on our social media as well.